Hi Nicole, I'm making another video about the fingered octaves because I don't think I did so well explaining it in the first one. So I pulled up the Vinavsky score, and I assume you're working on the octaves in the first page, which are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F, G, and then A again, from A to A. So I'm going to talk about those because I think either way you can apply what we're going to talk about. So the first thing that we need to address is the way your hand is gonna shift. You want to think of it as a unit rather, well, not as a unit, but your hand should move as a whole rather than each finger move one at a time. Because if you think of every finger at the same time, that's just gonna give you more things to think about. You're gonna think 1 3 2 4 1 3 2 4 rather than just 1 3 together and 2 4 together. Okay, so the first thing you want to address is your hand frame. Your hand frame should stay pretty constant most of the time. Once you get to the extremes, like way over here, then it can change because your hand has to come different. But for the most part, the motion of your hand should look something like this. So your finger should just go like that. My hand stays the same. See, as I get higher, maybe I can change it a little bit, but for the most part, my fingers stay the same angle. You don't want to do this and then have your fingers do that, because if you can see that, it's different than here. We want to have a motion more like this. They changed a little bit there because I'm getting to the extremes, but for the most part, in first, second, third, fourth position, they stay the same. After here, then they start changing. The reason for that is because normally in first, third position, that's where we're most comfortable. So you really want to have comfort whenever you're doing fingered octaves. And then the second thing is it affects intonation, because if, for example, we do something like this, and I change the angle of my finger, it gets sharp. See, my finger stays in the same place, but the angle of it, now a different part of my finger is touching. And I mean, that's exaggerating, but when you're doing octaves, which are extremely, like, everyone can hear if octaves are out of tune, obviously, then it's going to be very audible. So first thing you want to do is make sure you understand how your hand is going to move, how your fingers are going to move. Very smooth, and try to keep them as comfortable as you can, really. Find your most comfortable position. For me, it's third and first, because my fingers don't really have to stretch anything. My hand doesn't have to move. My wrist, everything is just fine. I can play really just comfortable. Okay, so once you get that motion, then we need to talk about how your fingers are going to move. So an exercise that I would do is put your first finger on your G string, pitch A, and then go across from it, a major 6. So your second finger is going to be on the D string, F sharp. Third finger is going to be on A, on your D, and fourth finger on E, B. So what you can do is, if you can, preferably have someone call out random numbers between 1 and 4. If they can, do 2 at a time. So for example, have them say 2 and 3, and then lift those off, but keep these set where they are. So if someone were to say 1 and 3, I would do something like this. Someone said 2 and 3, something like this. 1 and 4, 2 and 4. There we go. I messed up. But that's the point of the exercise, to get your mind to be able to move each finger at any time possible. And I would do it slow and then start speeding it up, but definitely take your time on it. What this will teach you is how to have your fingers move independently, because a lot of times what the problem is not really moving, but we can't do this really quick because it confuses our fingers. We end up doing something like and then your octaves end up being messed up. So really exercise being able to move any finger by anyone calling it. And then if you can do that, if you can do any finger move at any time, then you can definitely do 1, 3, and then 2 and 4, something like this. Okay, because I'm still practicing it too. But after you understand what I mean by having each finger move independently, then you can start working on your notes. So I'm looking at the score, and I'm gonna start with those first octaves. So you have, we start on A, open, and third finger A. So you wanna set that as your first anchor point, because the following note, we're gonna be able to find the following note based off of where A is. So the note that follows A is B natural. So we have open string A and third finger A on the E string. And then the following would be our Bs, but I was first start by finding the bottom note and then the top note, each one at a time. So what you would first do is identify what type of interval there is between A and B natural, both A natural and B natural. So we know that from A to B, this is just a whole step. So we find, then move up a whole step, and really hear the dissonance first. The dissonance between the minor seventh of B and A. So find that and hear it first. Pay attention to how much where your finger is going to be. So find A, then B. So that one's pretty simple. I don't think you'll have trouble finding your B, just because our B is automatically 1 whether we're doing octaves or not, because A, 1 is B, and then so forth. But B is somewhere we already know. The next thing I would do is, so you have your open string A and your third finger, you find your B, and then you find your third finger B on the E string. But the way I would find it is to slide up first. And as you're doing this, pay attention to how much your finger moves from A, third finger, to B. We know that it's also a whole step, just in a higher octave. So what I would do is keep doing that over. And then it'll get faster. Something like that. See, just really focus into how much your fingers move from where they originally were, and pay attention to the intervals. That's the key to this, to find an anchor point. So we're starting from A going to B, and then in your next one, you're gonna go from B to C or C sharp, and we know that's also a whole step. So really concentrate on understanding and teaching your fingers to how much a whole step is on your violin. We have A, B. And then what I